Welcome to Soft Bites Podcast. Your life, your dentistry. We talk about ways to have more fun and meaning in one of the coolest and most rewarding professions in medicine. Conversations on how to bring awareness, create a healthy workplace, and provide emotional insights to make dentistry a fulfilling activity while making space for one's wonder, creativity, and freedom. Here are your hosts, Manuela and George Andre.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Soft Bites podcast again.
It's been a while since we haven't recorded a podcast. So
Yeah, 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah,
Jesus.
because we are in the middle of March, and last time that we recorded was the middle of December, maybe, or in the beginning of December, or maybe
Yeah, then there
even
was
November, maybe. Yeah,
maybe, and then vacations and
yeah.
so on.
And life happening in the meanwhile.
Exactly.
And
But
everything.
it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. It feels good to be back for my therapy sessions.
And how are you, Andre? Everything is well?
I'm fine. I can't complain. I haven't been traveling that much over the last since I came from vacation, which feels good. But I've also been having a lot of work at my practice. I'm a bit overwhelmed with the management because staff has grown. But yes, I feel good. I would need. I am at the point where I feel I need to delegate at least an important part of management, which I already do, but I want to delegate more about that because I feel a bit tired of. I was talking to a patient today regarding management. We were talking about the importance of eventually selling the business in the future, and you can still be working there, but not owning the business to live a little bit more or to free from the task of management. And we were talking about that. And sometimes the way I feel is that I wake up and my battery is full, and management, nothing major, nothing dramatic, but management tasks, they just drain you throughout the day, like small tasks. And you think it's just an email, you think it's just something minor, just answer this WhatsApp or that, but then at the end of the day, you reach home and your battery is quite low, right? And the thing is that with age, you start with the level that's better to start with. But
I was hearing you talk, and I was thinking, imagine the ones that for them management is not, because you said nothing big, nothing
yeah,
stressful.
nothing big.
But imagine
Yeah.
for the ones that it's stressful. Imagine for the ones that don't have a system
Yeah.
in place. Imagine for the ones that it's
Yeah.
like putting out fires every day.
I was talking to a guy that is about to buy a practice in Lisbon, a big
Mhm.
practice. Is about to buy or to buy a share of the practice. Is like one of the best practices in Lisbon. And I was talking to him and I was telling him, look, do you want my honest advice? You're going to do management and clinical work as well in such a big place with almost 70 people. And he said, yes, I'm going to do management and technical part. Let me give you an advice. I told him, look, only work as a dentist half the day. Don't work more than half the day. If you want to do the management, if you want to completely delegate the management, that's one thing. But if you want to do the management, or at least part of the management, you need to work maybe half of the day, not more than that.
Yes.
That would be my advice.
Yeah, 70 people. I mean, come on.
Yes, it's a big burden.
Sometimes
It's a big burden.
seven people.
Yes.
Sometimes.
That 70 is with staff and dentists. My number with
70.
staff and dentists is about 15, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you feel
and I do feel drained sometimes, yes. And today, for example, I saw 3 patients. I worked. They only saw 3 patients, But then it's not only the 3 pages, it's the lab emails, and then I travel to Açores, and then it just adds up. And this guy I was talking with, I was telling him, look, do you see our boss? And his boss was with us, and and he's like a workaholic, a complete workaholic. And I said, is it how you want to be in 10 years? It says no. So you got to make choices now, and you have to make choices now, and saying no is very important. So and there's a price to pay when you handle such a big business. There really is a price to pay, and I think we are not honest enough with ourselves to say no to some things, and we pay the price for that.
Hmm. Definitely. So I think that the subject that we are going to talk today,
Mhm.
it has a lot also
Mhm.
to do with that, with the management, and it's something that can really, yeah, uh,
Yes.
mess up
Alpha nurses.
yeah, the management in a dental practice. So how?
And it's very frequent.
Yeah,
I'm sure that you have students. I'm sure that you have students that already told, look,
that's it. Hmm. Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
that I work in
For
a practice, but there's this nurse that's just
that's
yeah.
just she completely bosses me
She
around.
or he, she or he.
Yeah. It's yeah, it's by default that we say
Yeah.
she, I think, because it's usually women, but you are totally right. Um, Tell me something. Did you ever had to deal with the alpha nurse? I think when we mean what we mean by alpha nurse, it's a
Mhm.
dominant person, right?
Yes.
Maybe you want to.
Someone that I would say the definition is someone it's a little bit out of their boundaries and a little bit into your own boundaries as a clinician, as a dentist, as a doctor. And I think that when you feel that that uh, that the nurse is taking a role that she's not supposed to do, that she's taking out of her boundaries. For example, she's being more decisive about the scheduling than you, or she just makes comments regarding your clinical decisions in front of patients,
Mhm.
or she just doesn't respect the times that you place on your schedule, or she just believes, makes decisions and makes comments that you just don't like. I think that would be the definition of an alpha
Mhm.
nurse.
For someone to have all of that uh, power, if you like
Hmm.
to call it, or those lack of boundaries, just
Hmm.
like you
Hmm.
said, do you think someone had to give it to her?
Yes, absolutely. But it's extremely common.
Hmm.
I am completely unprepared for this podcast, as we are always, right? And as we were talking, I know at least 3 examples, which I'm not gonna, of course, not gonna identify. But I know an example in Switzerland, I know an example in Portugal, and I know an example of UK. 3 typical examples of nurses that just became bosses.
Hmm.
They
Yeah,
completely became bosses,
that's the
but
point.
even more, sorry, even more bosses than the boss.
Mhm. But that's exactly the point. When I was asking you, someone had to give them that power. It was given to them by the owners of the
Absolutely.
practice in order for them to feel that they can make decisions, in order for them to feel that when they are not there, they are the one calling the shots. They are
You
the
know,
one.
you
Yeah.
know, you know what I think? What I think is, that thing that you talk about, the difference between empathy
Passion. Yeah.
and compassion, right?
Hmm.
I think it's always the same mistake. I think that bosses, the common is the issue is always the same. You are a good technician, and you start to get some clients, you start to be overwhelmed, and you just become avoidant of important issues, right? And you just want to please patients so that everything stays okay. But you also do the same mistake, guess with who? With the staff, right? You
You want
just
to
want
avoid
to.
the difficult conversations,
Absolutely,
difficult
yes.
decisions.
And it's day by day, and oh, poor of them, they work too much. And it's true. It's true. Sometimes they just work too much, and you want to compensate them for the late hours. You want to compensate them for the time that you didn't were little bit more aggressive to them, and you just let it roll. And once you realize,
It's funny because you are saying something that I think is very important. Sometimes you compensate with these nurses, all of that, that they work too much and all that's just mentioned by giving them more power. Do you understand what I'm saying?
yes,
So they feel that indeed that they work too much hour too much, but they have
yeah.
some power.
And we are laughing, but this is a very serious conversation, right? This is a very serious conversation because the consequences for your own business and for the people that come on board are, you know, one of the practices that I can think of. Uh, I frequently have this common of people that work there or talk about because outside people they understand, they see this, which is there's just too much there's too much people in charge, or there are people who are excessively in charge of things. You typically have these comments, right? So basically there's a nurse or there's someone in the staff that just completely overrules sometimes even the owner decisions. And you are absolutely right. It's the problem is comes from the root, comes from the fact that you haven't just set boundaries. You just avoid difficult conversations. So yes, one perspective of this is exactly to the owner, right? Because the owner then gets completely stuck. Because the problem is that if you let the systems and the governance of the practice to one, two, or three players, right? Um, what happens is that the longer that keeps on going, the more the less likely you can revert the situation, and then you just become a prisoner of the situation, right? That's one perspective. The other perspective is from the associate dentist, from the dentists that work in the practice, right? Which can also be very, very dramatic, and sometimes you don't know what's going on, you don't understand why people are not satisfied, and sometimes that is one of the reasons why, because there's someone in the staff, there's some nurse that just creates a negative environment because they are just bossy,
Mhm.
and it's difficult to work in such an environment.
And you were saying you should let the systems on just to be ruled by a few people, but sometimes the practices don't even have a system in place.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so
No,
yeah,
those practices certainly don't have a system in place to
and
start
when
with.
you try and practices that have indeed this staff that falls in this category that we are describing, when the owner tries to implement systems, they have a big resistance to it because they sometimes feel that those if there is a system in place like that their power will be taken from them.
I think that I think having a system in place is not everything by far, because you
Yeah.
need to have the system, then you have to make sure it is implemented. It's much better to have a simple system that is done than a complex one that is completely ignored. But you are absolutely right. It's the most preventive measure. It's the most important principle after which it's just like you have to take care of yourself before you take care of others. So the business needs to be taken care of itself through a system, right? and and I think that can be quite preventive, because when you have a system and you have someone in charge of this or that, and you have very, very specific roles and procedures. I mean, what are the rules for scheduling, what are the rules for vacation scheduling, what are the rules for times of appointments, how is that discussed in the meetings, all of that It's like you were saying, right? Yes, sometimes I have bad days, but when I look at the horrible days that I could have had, or the horrible years that I could have had, if I didn't have a system, that would be way worse. So yes, the system is the most important thing, because then everyone gets checks everyone, right? So yes, it's the most preventive thing. If you have that, chances of having someone that is alpha within the team that creates issues with other colleagues it is much better, right? Because rules are set. Another principle that we usually talk about is that the rules of the systems are set by the team themselves, or at least they are agreed by the majority of the team, so everybody knows or tries to, or feels that they are contributing, and that they have a space that they can speak, right,
Mhm.
about the system. Because one thing interesting here, and you are absolutely right about the system, which is, people in meetings or even in person, it's very difficult for them to point a finger or to complain about someone else, because they are afraid, they don't feel good. So let's say, for example, I work in a practice, I don't like a nurse there. Very hardly I find the freedom or the safety to go to the boss and tell him, look, this person that is working with you here for 30 years, actually, she's an idiot, right? Because it's that person has been working there like for 30 years or 10 years or whatever. I just came here now, right? So it's very difficult for me to talk. While if I have a system, I can in the meeting say, look, this part about the system is not being done, so it doesn't become personal, right? So I think that's also another important advantage of the system, which is the system is not being done, period. It's not about the person itself, which gives more freedom and a sense of safety of the people that work with you to be able to say these things. Yeah.
I'm going to give you a very practical example of that young dentist was telling me. So one of the things that's really bothered this young dentist, and yeah, she was dealing with an alpha nurse, but one of the things that really bothered her was the way that this person entered her room when she was working, without knocking on the door, without saying "excuse me," nothing. When she was late, and she just burst in, and you say, "Ah, you are late," and there are patients waiting.
Yeah.
And yeah, and my first question was, is there some rules at the practice? Is there a system how you should enter other person's cabinet? Because for me that's a lack of respect. We already talked about this on the podcast, the words excuse me, thank you, all of that. So when you just burst or open a door, burst in when someone is working in someone's mouth, it's such a private thing that it's completely lack of respect. And saying those things to you, so those things should be part of the system, how you enter in someone's cabinet. And of course the answer was no. And
Yeah.
because if it's written, it's much more easier, like you were saying, it's much more easier to call that person to attention. Look,
Yeah.
you cannot do this.
Do this. Yeah.
This is not the way that we work here in the practice. You cannot, but you have to pay attention to this. But okay, there was no system in place, and this person was very. And I said, then you have to talk to her. You have to say, look, I don't like when you do that. For me, it bothers me. I'm focused in my work. When you do that, I get anxious. I get in a hurry to finish. That's not the way that I like to work. You have to be able to have this conversation with her and to set your boundaries, because otherwise she will continue to do the same. And it was very difficult for her. It was very difficult for her to have this conversation. It was very difficult for her to be heard. It was very difficult for her to be able to stop this behavior.
Yes.
And we are
the
talking
pro-
about a small thing that for
yeah.
me it's so basic. I
Yeah.
think for you also. I mean,
Yeah.
to just
And
burst.
And I think that we even have some testimonials from students in our previous course that one of the what I find is that one of the main reasons why an associate or a dentist leaves a practice, it's not really because of the financial conditions. That is one of them, of course, because of the environment. Yes, because of these issues of dealing with
Because
people that.
this behavior, this person felt disrespected. And I told her, you have to be able to communicate that you feel disrespected. But then when she finally had this conversation and when she expressed what she felt, the other person acted like, this one thinks she's special. You know?
Yeah.
Why? Because that behavior was the normal behavior in the practice. So she did that not only to her, but with everyone. And this one had the courage to say, look, I don't like this. You are disturbing my work. So the first reaction was, she thinks she's special.
Yeah.
So she had to have the conversation several times.
Yes. And these are the kind of things that drain you,
Oh,
that you take to bed, that you take home, that you become that make you cynical, that then you take this energy and you bring it to your place, to your partner, to your family, to your kids. And these are the kind of things that I think that today people are paying much more attention to than they were before. And actually, even in our last course in Amsterdam, we saw that all of these issues that students have with practices, they always have the same root. They always have a root of poor communication, or if the system is not in place, there is no way of having a communication. There is nothing that you can hold on to express yourself, right? And it's and it just wears you down. It just wears you down. And I think that one of the main reasons, actually, probably, I think that even more than financial, I think it's these sorts of issues, Res. It is these sorts of issues.
mhm.
Yes, but we were talking about two different perspectives. So the owner's perspective, how to deal with someone that you just completely left out of control and they just took over, right? I'm not even saying took over financially. I'm saying just took over because they just express their own their alpha personality in the business, and it just happens to be the way that
Vision. It's their
it's
vision.
their vision, exactly.
Mhm.
And the other thing would be the associate. Both, I don't know which one is more dramatic than the other, but honestly, as an owner, I do feel the pain of some of the owners, and the examples that I was thinking about. For example, one of the examples is in a person that just, it was a small practice with just, I think, two single nurses. It was not in Portugal, and one of the nurse was completely took over the place. I don't know if, I think there was some sort of previous intimate relationship between that person and the owner, which is, of course, that things can happen, right? And maybe because of that, the owner just became hostage. I mean, and these things that I'm telling you, it looks like, oh, this is just something, it is not a common situation, but these sorts of situations are common. They don't necessarily mean that the owner and some of the nurses previously have had a relationship. It can just be because the owner was just tired or just wanted to please the person, and they just
And
took over, right?
and because they need help also in the
And they
management
need
part.
help, yes,
And they
and
need
they
help
need
in the
help.
management.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
the person that it's there, that they don't have
Yeah,
to pay more for doing that.
yeah, yes,
And that if they give them that power, they don't mind so much to working late, and to go there when they are needed because they have that power.
because they feel empowered. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but the price to
And then
pay is
they can
so high.
become friends. Like, it's not needed an intimate relationship. Huh? I know a lot of
I'm
situations.
the favorite. I'm the
Yeah,
favorite.
that's it. Hmm.
I don't know. Did we already record the one which is don't have favorites, or we have
The
it on
next
the
one.
list to
The
record?
next one
Oh,
we have to do
nice.
the list.
That's an interesting one, right?
Mhm.
And so these people they just become favorites and they become toxic in the environment.
Mhm, mhm.
They
But
become completely
but
toxic.
we have to also recognize that this kind of nurses that we are talking about, they have this power and they cannot become favorites, but yes, usually yes, because they also work for it. So, like we were saying, they do the sometimes they do the work. They might not do it in the right way. That's another story. But yeah,
Mhm.
they work. Sometimes it is
Yes.
these persons that do the management part, that do all the material, that do the timetables of the other
It is
assistants.
true.
That
Yes.
pay the
They are hard
doctors. That
workers. They
yeah,
are hard workers.
we have to recognize that. We
Yes,
have to recognize that because
it's true.
these people, the power does not come only from it's given to them because
They earned
the,
them. They earned
yeah,
it.
that's
Yes.
it. They earned it.
Yes.
They are hard
Yeah.
workers.
Yes, they
So
are usually very, very competent people,
yeah,
very dedicated people,
yeah,
and
but
they feel that anything less than that, they are empowered to take charge over.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, of course. Now, if they do the job well,
Yes,
that's
of course.
another part. But
Yeah.
okay, they don't have any knowledge of management. They don't have
Yeah.
any knowledge of compassion, like we
Yes.
were saying. So
And they
if
start to micromanage people.
yeah, that's it. If they do the job well, that's another story. But they work. Yeah, they work. They are hard workers. They are hard
Yeah.
workers. Yeah.
And let's think about practical advice for each of these two situations. So, what would you advise to an associate that feels that they are under an alpha nurse that's been in a practice for 10, 20 years? What would
You
you advise? What would you advise
be
for
very very
and for example, my question would be: would you talk to the nurse? Would you talk to the boss? Would you talk to in a place where where the systems are not that much implemented? What would you recommend?
I would recommend to be very assertive. So
With who
with the nurse, and also
first?
with the of course with the colleague that owns the practice. Huh? I mean, those boundaries that you have to set, the the owner of the practice also should be aware of them, right? So
Yeah.
otherwise, what it will happen is that this nurse will talk to the doctor. "Now what? But she now does using the example of the door,
Yeah.
for example, right?
Yeah.
But then she came to me and I do this with everyone, and now to her I have to knock, and I
Mm.
did this. Okay, so I think that first you have to be and communicate your boundaries with the owner of the practice and explain why, and then have that conversation with the nurse. Because so that way you avoid mixed conversations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, to be very assertive, to communicate your boundaries, and also to collaborate with them. I mean, you don't have. There's a difference between collaboration. We used to say that you can empower your nurses through collaboration. You can empower indeed a recent graduate dentist through collaboration. Also, you have
Mhm.
a lot to learn with these people. Like we were saying, they are hard workers. They can teach you a lot. So you can also
So
collaborate with them, but in a way that you don't feel that they are running your work. You know that
Mhm.
you cannot let them step on you, but
Mhm.
so it's a dance. So
Mhm.
it has to be a dance, but you
So
have to dance.
a good conversation could be, look, I know I'm not very experienced. I know, and I do feel that I have a lot to learn from you. But for example, if you want to correct me on something, just I think it makes sense to do this in private, not in front of patients. So you have, because I think that you have to be very careful when when you talk to these people, because they are not, because if they got into this situation, it's because no one actually had these conversations with them.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
it's very likely that these sorts of conversations going to happen the first time in their lives or the second time, or right?
Yeah, because sometimes I have the feedback because what I just said, I say to the young dentists that I work with, always first talk to the owner of the practice. If you have that boundary, if you need to have this conversation with the nurse, you should always have saying that you have going to have this conversation with the nurse first with the owner of the practice. So because he should know, otherwise there will be mixed conversations. And sometimes when it's details like this, which are not, I don't think they are details, but if a practice runs by that, they think that those are details. Sometimes the answer of the owner of the practice is they laugh and they say, ah, yeah, she does that, but don't worry. She's like that. She's always been like that. Yeah, but okay, I understand. If they even understand, they even say, okay, I
Yes.
understand that she does that to me also. I already told her to stop, but she doesn't stop. But okay, don't worry, talk to her. But you understand, sometimes they even say, she does that to me also. I don't like her. I don't
Very
like it.
common.
I
Very
already
common.
told her and she continues to do it. So how is that person going to respect when you talk to her and say, please don't enter in my room like that?
Yes,
It's you
it's
have
what
to be able to have the conversation several times.
you what you are saying. I think it's way more common that we would like to admit. Oh yes, but she does the same to me. She does that to everyone, and she's always been like that.
But she's
But
a very
she's
good
like
worker.
she's a very good nurse.
Yeah.
She knows everything about the practice. She knows where is everything. If you want to, if something is, if you have like a serious issue in a practice, she goes and she solves it, right? So it's so common, and these are all pains of small unorganized businesses, right? This is the typical drama of a business, and the problem is that sometimes the owner can live in the status quo with that, or can, but the and on top of that, not only she solves issues, but patients are used to her helpfulness, because she helps patients. She's nice with patients. She creates personal relationships with patients. I mean, she's that, like you were saying, she's very competent
Yeah.
in everything that she does.
In a way
Yes,
that she thinks
she's toxic.
patients don't mind that she bursts when they are with their mouth
Yeah.
open. Yeah. She's
Yes,
so
yes, and on top of that, she for some patients, she can even have some comment regarding the competence of the decisions of the dentist in front of the dentist and in front of the patient,
That's
right? Yeah.
that's
So
it.
it's strange
Because the
because
problem
sometimes,
is
yeah,
it's not only the small things, not only bursting through the door. It's when it's related, and it's more serious when it's related to the treatments. And in a young dentist, because we were talking about the situations in a young dentist, and that thing that you said, I think it's very important. Look, I know I'm young. If you need to tell me something, we can talk, but please not in front of the patient.
the
Of course,
patient.
when you are an experienced dentist, you don't need
Yes.
to learn anything from the assistant.
Yeah.
So your conversation can be different. Your
Absolutely.
conversation
Yes.
can be
Yeah.
different. And you can be more assertive and set your boundaries in a different way. When you are not an experienced dentist, because you don't have the technical experience, then can happen some not so nice things. Like, for example, something that does not go so nice. I have those examples also. Some treatment that doesn't go so well, and they go on the back and they make the appointment for someone else or for the practice of the own, and they don't even know about it. It's like a sneaky thing, because they think that you didn't do it well, or the patient complain, and it's something absolutely normal. And when the patient is not already in your agenda, it's for someone else's. Because the problem with this power that we were talking is that they completely run the practice, like we were saying, and they have this power, of changing patients, of agenda,
Yeah.
and yeah.
They have a lot of power there.
And they
And how,
answer for instead of, because a dentist doesn't have a chance, and it's not the dentist answering the phone. So if the
yeah.
person called, it will not be the dentist saying, oh, okay, don't worry, this is normal, or you can come by and I'll see it. It's them. And if they don't trust your work,
Yeah. They will not book it.
yeah.
Yeah. Another perspective of the owner. What advice would you give to an owner that feels hostage of a nurse, because that's also very common.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because the business is going, you just have one kid, you had another kid, you're sleep deprived, things are going on, and again, she's so competent, she takes care of everything, but she crosses boundaries on some stuff, and that sometimes she's just a little bit too bossy. So
Mhm.
what advice would you give to a owner?
Well, it all goes back to the systems. I always
Okay.
ask if they have if they
Mhm.
have a system in at
Yeah.
place, and if not, it's time to start. And
It's
what
ti-
kind of
and to
manage?
involve her,
Yeah.
and to involve that person as well in the
Yeah, that's it.
system.
Maybe that person is a good manager, but that's it. It's a manager, not a nurse. So, my
Exactly.
advice is
That
also to review the management system that there is in
that's very
place,
that's very good. That's a very good suggestion.
yeah,
One of I actually gave
or
that
hire a
suggestion.
management, or maybe that nurse can be promoted
Could be,
as
yeah,
a
yeah.
manager. Yeah.
One of the advices that I give to a practice owner that had a similar situation was actually that to just make sure that this person, if I were you, I would place this person as a manager.
Mhm.
Of course, under a system, right? But it's a very clever way of 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 making a transition that feels comfortable to this person, right? Because now she's not in touch with patients and dentists directly, right? And she's given the power of creating her own system of, and this can be very positive to this person. This can be a very good gift for this person, right?
You will
So
see immediately if she's interested or not once you propose that, once you
Mhm.
proposed, for example, if you want to start putting a system in place, start writing things. And if it's someone that really likes what she does and wants to learn and wants to get better and wants to go a little bit higher in what she's doing or working for some kind of promotion, she will be very open and very receptive
yes,
to it.
yes,
So
she will feel
if it's
very
just
empowered.
resistance, yeah, if it's just resistance, if it's then, but I think the word that you used is key, hostage,
Yeah.
sometimes dentists do feel hostages of clinic owners, do feel hostages of this nurses, and I think that sometimes their decisions are based on fear, and fear-based decisions, they are never good. It's like that kind of mentality. But it's very difficult to find a good nurse. It's not because of the person being good at the work that she does, like we were saying, but because they think or feel that they cannot find someone else, to do the job. And sometimes those fear-based decisions can prolong the situation and even create a toxic environment, just like
Yeah,
you were saying.
yeah.
And they are responsible for toxic environments indeed, because um, if you want to maintain this situation, sometimes because even you think you will not find anyone that will work as much by what you are paying, because sometimes it's that fear, that you have to spend
Hmm.
more money. You have to indeed, I
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need the
And you had
management.
and you had to hire another one.
I know that she does this part. I know she's not good, but then I have to hire a management, and
Yeah,
I have to let her go. And and yeah, that there is a fear of all these decisions. There is a fear of change. It's like a toxic relationship. You know that you
yeah,
are in one,
yeah,
but it's difficult to change
yeah,
because it's what you are used to.
yeah.
Um, but
You know, but
yeah,
before you
I mean,
you go on, I just saw an Instagram reel, and it reminded me of you. I haven't sent you this, but basically there was this. Maybe you saw it already. There was this woman saying um, the importance of creativity and the definition of creativity, and she said that the definition of creativity is that you're not necessarily an artist. uh, a creative person is a person who, on a consistent basis, chooses the path of curiosity
Mhm,
rather than fear
mhm,
on a
mhm,
consistent basis. And
mhm,
it was very, it reminded me of you because you talk a lot about choosing the path of curiosity. Why does it feel curious? And she made she made a very interesting distinction. She says curiosity is not passion. She says because sometimes we choose the path of passion, and it can be misleading, right? Because passion is very emotional, right? It can be very uh, uh, very very emotional and
and it
very
goes by in time.
and
It's not
exactly, that's it.
something that
And
pertures.
and very temporary, right? And she said the curiosity is a completely it's being curious for something that you feel attracted to
Mhm,
rather than passionate.
mhm,
And it was very interesting. And what you were saying is exactly that, is to not to choose the path of fear on a consistent basis, because it will not lead you to a good place, both
mhm.
in the business and both emotionally.
Because if you are hostage for this reason from that person, you will resent that person. You will start resenting that person.
Yes, in
And
the
that
end,
person will
yes.
resent you also.
Of course.
Yeah. So it will not be good for the work environment.
Yeah.
It cannot be. And I think those kind of relationships, work relationships of based fear
On
based,
power, fear
yeah,
and power based, yeah.
yeah, they will lead to those kind of situation that we were just saying. To for one person to say one thing and the other to say another. So
Mm.
to have this kind of situations that the doctor says something and then the nurse says something different. For example, a basic example, right? When someone arrives late to the appointment, and before the person arrived, the doctor already said, "Look, I'm not going to see this person anymore. It's too late. I need a time for my next appointment. Otherwise,
Mhm.
I will be late." And then the patient arrive and the nurse says, "Ah, yes, yes, I'm going to ask. Don't worry, you will see you." You know?
That's all
But
very
this,
common as well.
yeah, that's it. So if you have this kind of power dynamic that is not balanced and it's fear based, and
Mhm.
there's not a real a strong leadership
Mhm.
because you are afraid of the other person reactions or whatever. It's it will be those kind of situations every day. And this of course will we go back to the way that we started, that you were saying that you have a energy battery and it's small things but it drains you. Now imagine yourself with this kind of with situations, and
On
imagine you are being in yourself in a position of being a practice owner. I'm not talking about being an associate with this kind of situation. Even the practice owner, sometimes with this, when they feel hostage of a person like this, you will resent this person.
Yeah, yes. You will start to resent sooner or later.
Mhm.
You will it's just like every sort of relationship where you keep leaving things unsaid,
Mhm.
and keep delaying the issues, keep delaying things that make you uncomfortable, just because you are afraid or just because you are too comfortable. And yes, it can lead to really dark places,
Mhm.
and sad places, because I unfortunately I do see some of these situations from owners who have had staff that just took over the place, not financially, but in terms of power management, they just took over the place. And it's sad, and this is something that I've been thinking a lot. And this is probably the first time that I'm going to say this publicly. But I'm thinking about selling my practice over maybe the next couple of years.
Mhm.
And the reason why is that I do a lot of things, and I still do the management, even though I have someone that does the management. She's doing much more stuff. But I do have a lot of things in my plate. And I look at the examples that I see in their 60s, in their 50s, and I don't want that for me. I really don't. I'm 47 now, and I look at my practice and I say, well, this is probably the best time to sell because things are good, and things are in a good place. This does not mean that I'm going to stop working there,
Yeah.
but I think it would be very nice not to think about the things that I sometimes need to think on a regular basis, like rewiring the tasks or handling the meetings and doing the decisions for materials and for growth and this and that. Maybe I just want to be a technician there that has the freedom to document their own cases, which is, guess what? Why I opened the practice in the first place. That's so interesting, isn't it? I opened my practice in the first place because I want to document things. So why don't I only do this? And management for me, as you know, it was it was very painful for me. Management, I had to learn it in the hard way because I was not emotionally tailored to manage people. I had to become that person, and it's. I was talking to my mother today about this, and she said, "Well, that decision was probably the best thing you told me over the last 10 years." She told my mom today when we were having lunch. She
Mhm.
told me, "I'm so happy for that." I call my mom, I call my father. Look, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And they were very supportive. And I was thinking to myself, um, I was thinking, okay, I'm 47. Maybe I will have 10, 15 years to do the things that I like with a body that still respond quite well over the next 10 to 15 years. So why should I follow the path of waiting 15 more years or 10 more years to sell my practice?
Mhm.
So this is something that I think it's an irreversible decision. I think from an outside perspective, no one will notice because I will probably be working there, maybe less, and I might eventually still be the clinical director of my practice. But yes, that's what I'm thinking about doing the next years.
Mhm.
And the reason why is not because I'm unhappy with the practice. It is because I have the clear notion that I have too much on my plate. And I started to notice that by the end of last year. That I also had a very, very busy year. And there's only so much that you can handle. And the I do the clinical work, I do the management, I do the courses, and yes, it's too much on my plate. That's what I feel. But I interrupt you. Sorry.
No, I was going to ask you if you associate that with freedom,
Of course,
yeah.
I associate that with. I think that, and of course, this podcast helps me a lot of that on that, which is I think a lot about where my mind is at any given moment. I think a lot about that. And for example, I came from vacation, and I when I come fully recharged, I have the tendency to overdrain myself, to think that I can do everything, and it just work, 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 manage new ideas, implement this, implement that, hire new staff. For example, I had one nurse that just became only doing media. I hired a new nurse. It was not the first or the second. It went for the third try, and you feel that you always have energy for everything. But people closer to you, they notice this. They notice that you are that you don't see it because I am very resistant. I'm very proactive. I do a lot of physical exercise. I meditate, so I can handle a lot. I can hold on. I can handle a lot of pressure. But it will eventually take its toll, and I do want freedom, and the freedom is not necessarily a freedom of time, which of course that I would like to have 6 months of vacation, and this is something that I will negotiate with the persons that buy my practice.
You
Of
know
course,
that when we started the podcast, you said 3 months. 3 months. Now it's 6 months.
No, I can do 3 months already, right?
Yeah.
That 6 months is another level. 6 months is
I
just
know, I know.
that's a joker
But
level. That's a
you
joker
used
level.
to say 3 months. Now you
Yeah.
say 6 months. It's
But
nice.
I can do I do 3 to 4 weeks in a row, and the other 2 months I do it throughout the
No,
year.
sorry, I interrupted you. Continue.
No, no, you didn't interrupt it, but it's very interesting to think about these things, and I think that meditation and this podcast helped me a lot because you really have to. I I am not the kind of person who who feels good about saying things that that I don't live. You know that I don't like. I like to live my words. And if I hear myself talking about certain things, and sometimes I talk and then I realize, actually, I just said this because this is something that I feel, and in the podcast, and it's something that I wouldn't say to myself, the 3 months, the 6 months. I mean, I say to myself when I write my goals, but sometimes you just it's important to hear it coming outside of your mouth and making it public.
Makes it
But
more real,
yes,
huh?
makes it more real. But yes, it's the freedom of time, but it's also the freedom of mind. Of I do have a lot of stuff on my mind every moment, and many of that, most, not many, but yes, many of those things are management issues.
Mhm.
Not big things, but they just occupy space. They occupy that space, and the space that's occupied for that is it's then blocking other space for other stuff, for I mean for friendship, for love, for traveling, for creativity, for having the time to go to the beach, for just for nothing,
Mhm.
just for TV binging, for just so I have this very clear notion in my mind that is something that I would like to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe I'm not saying that everybody that wants to do less management needs to sell their practice. By no means, that's not what I mean. I think that you can hire a manager and you can say, look, I'm going to pay you well, but I'm going to pay you because you are giving me freedom and I'm paying you for this, which I partially do already with a nurse that very recently I said, look, she already does some of the management. She works like 2 days a week at home because she's doing management, which is something that is already a good incentive, right? But I said, look, I'm going to raise you, and I raised her because she told me, look, what you are asking me is a very big responsibility because what I'm asking her, this is I'm asking her to sometimes need to tell hard things to work colleagues that sometimes can be even her friends, right? So,
Mhm.
and she told me, look, for this kind of pressure and I'm willing to do that, but I think I should be paid more. And she was right, and I raised her. Look, yes, you are absolutely right because you are going to feel the practice success in your own skin, and maybe you will have to tell your colleagues that are at the same level now, or that can sometimes even earn more than you are, and you are going to manage people that are earning more than you, and it doesn't make sense. And I completely understand what she meant, and I said, yes, you are right, and I'm gonna raise your salary, but I also want more freedom for myself. And because and this and this and again, you need to make very clear checklists, weekly checklists for the manager, daily checklists for the manager, monthly checklists for the manager. They need to know exactly what they should be doing, and they need to know exactly what you expect from them. For example, one thing that I said, look, I want to be able to give a WhatsApp to you at any time. You don't have to listen this at night and then I want this to happen, right? I don't want to always be sending things by email to everybody. And also, I want that some of the things are going to be said through you directly indirectly to the nurses and not through. And I don't want to be talking to everyone at the same time. I want you to handle this. So that can be one of the alternatives of instead of selling the practice. So I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Selling the practice is the only solution for that. You can rent the practice. You can hire a manager. Selling the practice for me, I think it's going to be a good solution for me for other details that don't matter for the podcast. But I think that especially in Portugal, when some of the people that I talked about this and said, look, why don't you just wait 10 more years to make more money? I mean, your practice is growing. Just wait 3 more years, wait 1 more year. I mean, but it's 3 years. You never know what's going to happen to you. You never know when the health issue is going to happen. You never know when that trip that you wanted to do. Um, so I think for me, this is what I feel. I feel that my time has come for me to eventually work in my practice on a different level. I still might be working there, but I want to I want to do less management. And I think I am a good manager, but I am also human and I cannot do everything. Yeah. So that this is what I feel. And I haven't talked to you about this. I was thinking about talking to you about this in private, but yes. So in public, I think it's a good place to talk about this anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
So I'm very happy for that. So I'm happy
I'm
for
not
that.
completely surprised because I think it's something that you or
Yeah.
maybe to be usually, because usually the what is I mean the normal path is a little bit later, but you said that one day your goal
Yes, I wanted
was
to.
to,
Yes.
yeah, but I'm not surprised. I think it's something that you that it makes sense
Yeah.
to you,
I'm
and
not
it's
I'm not
Mhm,
gonna stop doing the podcast or give
mhm,
courses with you, because I think that even especially with an employee, as an employee, you will have even the different side of the perspective, right?
uh-huh.
So yes, but
No,
it's a decision that makes me that I
for
feel
me,
warm. You know what I feel? I feel warmth in my chest when I think
mhm,
about that.
yeah,
That's what I feel.
that's a good thing. It means that's a good the right decision.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes these decisions, and I think sometimes dentists take longer to make these decisions because they make their decisions like just like you said, that some people told you, and money based, so rational, what it's
It is.
normal,
It
it's
is
not
also.
normal to do it so
Yeah.
soon. But if you
Yeah.
feel that this is the right thing
I
for
have
you, if you
yeah,
feel
I
that
have to be
warmth, that means
yeah. I have to be honest. I have to be honest. I I am in a financial place where I wouldn't need to sell the practice, and but I think there's a balance here. I think the balance is the longer you wait, the more money you will make by selling the practice. But the longer you wait, the less life you will have to live with that money. So I think it's I really think that, and this is a very personal decision, of course, but the amount of life that you exchange by money, and life, I mean time, it's something that is very personal. And for me, it is. I think the time has come for me. I think I'm in the right place for that, because this is what. Also, because some potential buyers, I think they are in the right place as well to take over that. And yes, I feel happy that I have made this an irreversible process.
Mhm. Congratulations, then.
Thank you.
Congratulations are in order if you feel good, because there's a very big difference. We were before because before we were talking about fear-based decisions, right? So
Yeah.
when it's the other way around, when is the decision that it's aligned, that you feel that it's the right decision. I mean,
Yeah.
you feel it with you just mentioned, I feel a warmth in my body, so that means that
Yeah.
it's something that, and I know you, so I know that it's very well thought, and it's something that it's not by impulse. So,
Yes, of course. Yes, that's
so
there's that of I don't think that you should sell your practice if you don't have a clear vision of how life will be after that and all the conditions and what can happen. And as I said, one thing is selling the practice and completely stopping a dentist. That's one thing. What the other thing is to be able to work in the practice, of course, with complete freedom, which is also very good. There's no way I would sell my practice if if someone that's gonna if I want to keep working there and if someone is going to impose me conditions that I know are not going to make me happy with. So yes, I do want to have the freedom for scheduling, for vacation, and if I can get that, I will sell it. Yes, of course, it might not happen, but I think the most important thing is that I have made the decision to myself that I realize that now is the time for me, and and when other people tell me wait 3 more years, wait 1 more year, wait 10 more years, it just doesn't resonate anymore, and it just doesn't feel right anymore to me. And there's so many things that I would like to do, so many other things that I would like to do in dentistry and outside dentistry that I feel that life is being very good to me, and I just don't want to be under so much pressure in terms of management, and I want to leave that apart. Yes, but again, honestly, if you tell me, look, is when I say too much pressure, I mean I feel that pressure. We can handle it. I can handle it, and for sure, if my job was 100% my practice, clinician and manager, it would be perfect. I would not sell it by no means to be perfect. Today I saw 3 patients. I work 3 days in the week in the practice. It would be nice, right? But the thing is that I do have a lot of stuff, other stuff. I have my courses. I have Make Me Clear. I have some other stuff that I would like to develop further and do things that and also have less stuff on inside my head, more freedom, more headspace, basically. Yeah.
okay. Good.
So that was a nice way to end this one, isn't it? You weren't expecting
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
were you?
No, no, but I mean, I was not expecting, but I was not, like I told you, I was not completely surprised, and I'm
Yeah.
happy. I'm happy for you. I see that you are at peace with that decision, and I'm happy for you. I know that you have a lot going on. I know that you have other interests that you would like to develop, and I know that
Yeah.
you still have a lot to give to dentistry and outside dentistry. So that will allow you to do that. So yeah, congratulations again. I think that's
Thank you
great.
so
I
much.
think that's very
Thank you
great
so much.
because it's like I said, we are used to the normal path of things.
65.
And yeah.
Sell at 65.
So yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with selling at 65. I mean, if you are happy with the decision,
Yeah.
and I know, of course, for example, if you have kids in dentistry that are about to be dentists, it makes no sense to sell your practice, for example, right? But it's I think that sometimes we hold on to our own creations for too long, and I don't think it's just like the ethos of the Burning Man. You just have to let go of your creativity, of your creation, and that is what I want to do.
Your creativity can be developed elsewhere.
Yes.
Mhm.
So yes, that's a nice way to end this
Good.
one, right?
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. With not
And we have a course in
with us.
Sagres in
Yeah,
October.
in October, the third week of October, in the weekend of the 25th of October. Please join us. Go to softbites.online, and we are back.
We are back. Exactly. See you next time.
See you next time, Andre. Bye bye, and thank you
Bye-bye.
for everyone for listening to us. Bye bye.
Thank you.